My grandfather had one rule when I was growing up in Puerto Rico: never go into the woods after sundown. He said it constantly, but he never explained why. When I was 14, a friend came over just before sunset and asked if we could explore the woods behind the houses. I didn't ask my grandfather, I already knew what he'd say. As we left the gate, he called out from the balcony,
"Don't go into the woods after sundown."
The weird part, I hadn't told him where we were going. We went anyway. At first, everything felt normal. The coqui frogs chirped and the trees swayed in the warm night air. Then my friend stepped off the trail to use the bathroom. A minute passed, then another. The woods suddenly felt wrong, too quiet. So I stepped off the trail looking for him and walked into a clearing I didn't recognize. It was much bigger than the one I remembered, and standing in the middle of it was an old woman. Her hair was white and her skin was pale, but her face looked furious, almost possessed. We stared at each other. Then she slowly raised her hands and started whispering something I couldn't understand. Suddenly, the wind exploded through the trees. Branches bent, leaves whipped around me, and the temperature dropped so fast, my breath felt cold in my chest. The entire time, she kept moving her hands, whispering. I shut my eyes, convinced something terrible was about to happen. Then everything stopped. The wind, the cold. When I opened my eyes, the clearing was empty. She was gone. It took nearly an hour for my friend and I to find each other again. He swore he never moved from the trail. He said one moment I was there, and the next I had simply disappeared. When I got home, my grandfather saw my face and immediately knew something was wrong. After I told him everything, he went pale and looked toward the dark wood.
Alas.
Then he locked every window and door in the house. Later that night, I saw him sitting alone praying the rosary. After that, he never repeated the rule. He didn't have to. Because now, I know exactly why he said it. Some places change after sundown. And whatever I saw in those woods is the reason I'll never go back. When I was 6 years old, something happened that I've never been able to explain. One night, I woke up for no reason. No nightmare, no loud sound. I was just suddenly awake. My room was dimly lit by a small nightlight and the one glowing faintly in the hallway. Everything inside looked normal. My toys were scattered across the floor, and my stuffed leopard sat on the end of my bed where it always was. But when I looked toward my window, my stomach dropped. There was a man standing outside. His skin looked loose and gray, hanging off thin bones and weak muscles. He wore a dark blue robe that looked almost black in the night. One long crooked finger pressed against the glass, pointing directly at me. His mouth hung open, but inside it there was only darkness. The same darkness as the moonless sky behind him. But the worst part was his eyes. They were pale, almost purple, completely blank. The window slowly fogged and cleared with each breath he took. I panicked. I jumped backwards so hard that I shoved my bed away from the wall and fell between the bed and the floor. I made so much noise that my dad rushed into the room. From the floor, I could still see the man's hand on the glass, that long, crooked finger pointing at me. But when my dad pulled me up and looked outside, the figure was gone. No fog on the window, no fingerprints, nothing. I tried to explain what I saw, but my dad told me it was probably sleep paralysis. He said sometimes your mind can play tricks on you when you wake up suddenly. That night, he let me sleep between him and my mom. Something that usually only happened after the worst nightmares. As the years went by, I mostly forgot about the man. Every once in a while, I would dream about him. usually when I was sick, but I didn't see him again, not until I was 17. By that age, I spent a lot of time hiking and camping in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest. One summer, I planned a 2-night backpacking trip to Gothic Basin and Foggy Lake in North Cascades. It's a steep hike, but the glacier lake at the top is worth it. I reached the basin late in the afternoon, set up my tent, and settled in for the night. Dinner was simple: spam and peanut butter crackers. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up needing to use the bathroom. Normally, I try to wait until morning because I hate leaving the tent in the dark, but this time I couldn't wait. So I pulled down my boots and unzipped the tent. The second I stuck my head out, I froze. Right outside my tent were a pair of feet. Thin, bony. The bones pushed sharply against my skin. The nails were long and curled. I just stared at them. Slowly, I lifted my head and looked up. Standing over my tent was the same man I saw when I was 6 years old. The same loose gray skin, the same dark robe. His mouth hung open in the same empty expression, like there was nothing going on inside of his mind. And those pale purple eyes just staring at me. His fingers were stiff, bent at the joints. I jumped backward into my tent. I should have zipped it closed, but I didn't. The wind kept blowing the tent flap open and shut, and every time it opened, I could see him, just standing there, watching. Eventually, he turned and slowly walked away. I could hear rocks scraping under his dragging feet as he disappeared into the darkness. Then there was nothing but the sound of the tent flap snapping in the wind. I know it wasn't sleep paralysis this time. I was fully awake, moving, thinking clearly. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I kept my lantern on and my headlamp strapped to my head until the sun finally started rising. Only then did I step outside the tent. And when I did, I saw something that made my chest tighten. Right beside my campsite were long scrape marks in the dirt, like rocks had been dragged across the ground. Just like the sound I heard when he walked away. That was the last time I ever saw him. That was over 10 years ago now, but I can still picture him perfectly. The pale eyes, the crooked finger, the empty mouth, and sometimes I wonder if he's still out there somewhere, waiting for the next time I wake up in the middle of the night. When I was a teenager, my friends and I used to do what most teenagers do: wander around at night with nothing better to do. Behind our neighborhood, there was a shallow canyon about a 10-minute walk away. A paved trail ran through it, following a small creek, and if you kept walking long enough, it would lead you past 3 different schools within a few miles. It was the perfect place to hang out at night. One night, we decided to walk all the way to the high school. There was a shipping container there, and someone had dragged an old mattress next to it. The idea was simple: climb up, jump off onto the mattress, and just mess around for a while. After hanging out there for a bit, we started walking back through the trail toward home. The last stop before the neighborhood was the elementary school where we had originally met up earlier that night. As we stepped out into the open field near the school, something caught our attention in the sky. There was a balloon floating above us. At first it looked just like a small dark shape drifting in the night air, but as we kept walking, we realized something strange. It was slowly descending, and it was drifting almost perfectly toward us. We stopped walking and watched it. As it got closer, we could see it clearly. It was a metallic balloon in the shape of a heart, reflecting the faint light from the street lamps nearby. A short string hung from the bottom, maybe a foot or so long. The whole moment felt strangely eerie, and it was completely quiet, just the two of us standing in the open playground of an elementary school, in the middle of the night, watching this balloon slowly drift down toward us. It almost looked like it was hovering just above our fingertips. Eventually it came low enough to reach. So without really thinking about it, I stepped forward and grabbed it. Laughing, I smacked my friend in the shoulder with the balloon. But the second it bounced off him, it made this horrible sound. A loud metallic screech echoed through the empty schoolyard as the balloon jerked toward the ground. The sound was so sudden and so unnatural that it sent a shock straight through the both of us. Without saying a word, we bolted. We ran for the fence like our lives depended on it, scrambling over it as fast as we could. Neither of us knew why we ran. Maybe it was the sound. Maybe it was the strange way the balloon had drifted right toward us in the dark. Or maybe it was just the feeling, like something about the whole situation wasn't right. Either way, we didn't stop running until we were far away from that school. And to this day, I still have no idea where that balloon came from. When I was in college, I worked part-time delivering pizzas. Most nights were boring. Drove to someone's house, hand them their food, maybe get a decent tip, and move on to the next order. After a few months, the job felt almost automatic. But there was one delivery that I will never forget. It happened on a cold Friday night. The restaurant was just about to close. The kitchen had already started cleaning the ovens, chairs were being stacked, and everyone was ready to go home. That's when the phone rang. My manager looked at the clock and sighed.
Last order of the night.
Nobody wanted it, so it ended up being mine. He printed the receipt and handed it to me.
Edge of town. Should be quick.
I grabbed the pizza box and glanced at the address. The street name sounded familiar, but I didn't remember delivering to that exact house before. Still, I didn't think much of it. I got into my car, started the GPS, and began driving. At first, everything was normal. Street lights, cars passing, houses with lights on. But the further I drove, the quieter things became. Soon there were fewer houses, then fewer streetlights. Eventually, it felt like I had driven out of the neighborhood entirely. The road got darker. Trees lined both sides of the street, and the rain had just started lightly falling, tapping softly against my windshield. Finally, my GPS said, "You have arrived." I slowed down. At first, I thought it was wrong, because the only thing in front of me was a long gravel driveway leading into a patch of trees. But the address number was posted on a small wooden sign near the entrance. So I pulled into the driveway. The gravel crunched under my tires as I slowly drove forward. After about 30 seconds, the trees opened up and I saw the house. It was sitting by itself in a clearing. No lights on, no cars in the driveway, no porch light, just darkness. I sat in my car for a moment staring at the house. Something about it felt off. But at that time, I told myself I was just being paranoid. So I grabbed the pizza and walked up to the front door. The rain had gotten a little heavier now, and the only sound around me was water dripping from the trees. I knocked. Nothing. I waited a few more seconds, then knocked again. Nothing. I was about to turn around and leave when I heard something faint from inside the house. A voice, very quiet.
"Leave it at the door."
The voice sounded strange. Not loud enough to clearly hear, but not weak either. Almost like someone whispering through a wall. I looked down at the receipt again. The order hadn't been paid. So I knocked again and said, "I just need a payment first." For a moment, everything went silent. Then I heard footsteps inside. Slow footsteps, dragging across the floor. Step. Step. They were getting closer to the door. I stood there waiting. The footsteps stopped right on the other side. I could see the door handle slightly moving, like someone was gripping it. But they didn't open it. Instead, the voice spoke again.
"Just leave the pizza."
Something about the way they said that made my stomach twist, so I repeated myself. "I'm sorry, I can't leave it without payment." There was a long pause. Then suddenly, something slammed violently against the door from the outside. I jumped backward, almost dropping the pizza box. My heart started pounding. Then I heard something that made the situation even worse. Laughter. At first it was quiet, then it grew louder. But it didn't sound like one person. It sounded like multiple people. 2, maybe 3. All laughing at the same time. That's when I realized something that made the back of my neck go cold. I hadn't seen a single car outside. No lights inside the house. No sign that anyone lived there. But there were clearly several people inside the door. Then the whisper came again, right on the other side.
We know you're still there.
That was it. I didn't say another word. I dropped the pizza box right on the front porch and ran back to my car. The gravel slipped under my shoes as I sprinted down the driveway. My hands were shaking so badly it took me 2 tries to get the car started. As I pulled away, I looked in my rearview mirror, and that's when I saw something I will never forget. The front door was now open, just slightly, and standing inside the dark doorway were 3 figures, completely still, just watching my car drive away. I couldn't see their faces, just silhouettes, but I knew they were watching me. The next day I told my manager what happened. At first he laughed and said it was probably just some weird customers messing around. But then he checked the order in the computer, and his expression changed. He turned the screen toward me. The address listed on the order didn't exist. Not just the house. The entire number on that street wasn't registered to anything. No home, no building, nothing. Even stranger, the phone number used to place the order was disconnected. No records, no names attached to it. To this day, I still think about that delivery. If I had waited just a little longer at that door, would they have opened it? Or worse, were they hoping I would? If these stories gave you chills, make sure to like and subscribe, because there are plenty more disturbing encounters coming your way. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened. Until next time, stay safe and don't answer the door too late at night.